Okay, now we have finished the animation stitching and with the little character effects. Now let's create a very cool and dynamic camera for this shot. If we go back to our reference, which is the final, this camera is sort of from the profile and follows the character running with a handheld shake feeling. Before I do the camera animation, there's one thing I want to do is to fix one of my problem I made a long time ago. I want to shift all the animation from starting from frame 1, and I want to shift the whole chunk to start from 1001. So I have a little room to extend the frame before 1001 if it's needed, so we don't really go back to the negative frames. The problem with the negative frames is that once we rendered out those negative frames, the order will be reversed in compositing software. So let's just open up the graph editor and select everything that we have animated, including all the main controllers and those dynamic joints. So there's a little trick here. If we select all the curves and values and we go to frame there, we can use Maya as the calculator. Instead of we drag them by hand, we can just type plus equal to 1000, which means this will shift the whole chunk curve 1000 frames forward. And the same thing you can use as plus equal, minus equal, times equal, or divided equal. They will do the same calculation. So after that, all of our keyframes now shifted 1000 frames later to start from the frame 1001. So we fixed this stupid mistake that I made before. In production, we always use 1001 as the first frame because we always need to extend before 1001. It's just a thing in production, I guess. Okay, let's just check if our animation is correct. It looks correct, and we may need to extend the frames a little bit. We need to extend 10 frames before, so we get and set our nucleus simulation. Remember, we need to set the star simulation frame to 990. Great, so we have everything set. At the next step, let's do the animation for the camera. If you guys still remember, we talked about the camera rigging a very early chapter. I think the second chapter or third chapter. Here we're going to use the same camera rigging system, 2 layers on top of the actual Maya camera, and we need to do a sort of a tracking motion that the camera follows the character running from left to right. So the first thing, let's just rotate the camera 90 degrees. Oh, actually, where's the camera? We're gonna rotate the camera minus 90 degrees, and then at the top layer, we're just gonna keep the camera on the sort of the center of this whole scene, and then we're gonna use the second layer to pull the camera back a little bit, so we can make this first layer to follow the character in one axis, which is the axis. We only have to animate one axis, and then we use the second layer to adjust the distance between the camera and the character. So if we go to the last frame, it's around 1137, and then we just gonna shift the whole camera to the same spot. And because the character is running at a linear speed, we also need to make our camera to move at a linear speed. And just to go through, oh, actually, sorry, our character starts running on 1001. We get rid of the pre-roll here. There we go. And probably we need to add a couple more keys in the middle just to make sure the character is always in frame. So here and maybe there, we just do a little bit adjustment, and there, maybe too fast, pull it back, just to make sure the character is always in frame. This is the first pass of animation. We're gonna tweak later when we look through the camera view. So let's just open another viewport so we can look through the camera, and we're gonna use the middle mouse click to drag the camera into this viewport. So this is what we see through this camera right now. Maybe I would need maybe this right now the character looks a little break in the frame. Maybe I need to pull the camera back a little bit. And if I take a look at the lens, the final lens, well, I mean in Final Cut I actually used the same camera motion, but I used two or three lenses to shoot the whole motion. I think it's first is 35-ish, and then cut to 75 here, and then we cut back to the 35 lens. It's the same camera motion, just different lens. And because the final render for this shot is going to be Unreal, and Unreal has its own camera and lens system, so we don't really have to worry about animating the lens or anything here. We just need to make sure the film back, the lens is correct, is identical as the ones in Unreal, and the camera motion is correct. So I might now have a little bit too much on the top, and let me actually just to tweak the aspect ratio a little bit so we can make sure we're looking at the right thing, we don't get cropped. I would like to lower the camera overall a little bit, so the center in the frame, roughly center in frame. And there's one thing I kind of want to add is at the start of this shot, the character starts from a little bit biased to the screen left, and as he runs forward, as he runs forward, of course, he runs forward in world space, but also in screen space, in the camera screen space, he also sort of slowly shift from screen left to screen right. So he's not staying static at one specific part in the screen. So we sort of have a little relative motion to the camera from screen left to screen right. It's just a little trick to give the shot a little more dynamics. And then same old trick, we're gonna use the sky sphere so we can see the rotation better. This is a very simple camera movement. And then final step, our favorite camera shake. Use the same script to add the camera shake just a little bit because we're running with the character, and select the camera itself and add shake. Let's go to the shake. Let's go to the shake controller. I would want a little bit a left and right rotation. Let's give it a 10 amplitude and 4 camera roll. Let's see 3. It looks pretty good. It looks like the cameraman is running with the character. Just to spice up the shot a little bit. It's a very simple animation, and we're gonna do the different lens in Unreal later. And before we import into Unreal, we're gonna talk about another part of the animation, which is this backslide and how to constrain the gun to the hand and do a little gunplay animation close-ups. And then we're gonna talk about the Unreal import and export later.
Purchase genuine tutorial. Enjoy the question answering from course tutor in the long term. Join the exclusive Facebook group and learn from each other. Also, you can sign up with Yihu.com. Search for the course ID. Obtain the full learning courseware, project files. Follow us on Facebook. Get closer to become a master in CG field.